Hello, Year 2, and welcome back to Reading Skills for Thursday. Now, we are going to be, first of all, just looking at some vocabulary that's going to come up in today's chapter. These words are rotten, swig, porch, and pot-bellied. So pause the screen now and have a go at thinking about what those words mean. Okay, so our first word then is rotten. So I wonder if you know what this word meant. So if something is rotten, that means it is suffering from decay or it is going mouldy. So sometimes fruit and vegetables starts to go rotten. The next word is swig. So, let me cover that one. So swig is when you have a large gulp of drink. So you quite often have a quick swig of water. A porch. Now, a porch is a covered shelter coming out of the front of a building. So some of you might have a porch on the front of your house by your front door. And the last one then is pot-bellied. So pot-bellied is someone who is quite fat with a round tummy. Okay, so sometimes you might see a pot-bellied pig. So a pig which has got a big tummy. So we are going to be using the reading skill sequence today, okay? And when we sequence something, that's when we're putting something into order, so the order that it happened. So we are going to have a quick refresh back over chapter 5, which is actually the chapter which I read to you yesterday. So I'm going to go back over chapter 5 with you now. Then on the screen here, you have got some pictures which I'm going to ask for you to put in order. Okay, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. So, chapter 5. The first bit of the text is on the screen, so you can follow that through. As the sun rose the next morning, Boggis and Bunce and Bean were still digging. They had dug a hole so deep that you could have put a house into it. But they'd not yet come to the end of the fox's tunnel. They were all very tired and cross. Dang and blast, said Boggis. Whose rotten idea was this? Bean's idea, said Bunce. Boggis and Bunce both stared at Bean. Bean took another swig of cider, said Swig, then put the flask back into his pocket without offering it to the others. Listen, he said angrily, I want that fox, and I'm going to get that fox, and I'm not giving in until I've strung him up over my front porch, dead as a dumpling. We can't get him by digging, that's for sure, said the fat Boggis. I've had enough of digging. Bunce, the little pot-bellied dwarf, looked up at Bean and said, Have you got any more stupid ideas then? What? Said Bean. I can't hear you. Bean never took a bath. He never even washed. As a result, his ear holes were clogged with all kinds of muck and wax and bit of chewing gum and dead flies and stuff like that. This made him deaf. Speak louder, he said to Bunce, and Bunce shouted back, Have you got any more ideas? Bean rubbed the back of his neck with a dirty finger. He had a boil coming there and it itched. What we need on this job, he said, is machines, mechanical shovels. We'll get him out in 5 minutes with mechanical shovels. This was a great idea, and the other two had to admit it. All right then, Bean said, taking charge. Boggis, you stay here and see that the fox doesn't escape. Bunce and I will go and fetch our machinery. If he tries to come out, shoot him quick. The long, thin Bean walked away. The tiny Bunce trotted after him, and the fat Boggis stayed where he was with a gun pointing at the foxhole. Soon, two enormous caterpillar tractors with mechanical shovels on their front aims came clanking into the woods. Bean was driving one, Bunce the other, and the machines were both black. They were murderous, brutal-looking machines. Here we go then, shouted Bean. Death to the fox, shouted Bunce. The machines went to work, biting huge mouthfuls of soil out of the hill. The big tree under which Mr. Fox had dug his hole in the first place toppled like a matchstick. On all sides, rocks were sent flying and trees were falling and the noise was deafening. Down in the tunnel, the foxes crouched, listening to the terrible clanging and banging overhead. What's happening, Dad? Cried the small foxes. What are they doing? Mr. Fox didn't know what was happening or what they were doing. "It's an earthquake," cried Mrs. Fox. "Look," said one of the small foxes, "our tunnel's got shorter and I can see daylight." They all looked round, and yes, the mouth of the tunnel was only a few feet away from them now, and in the circle of the daylight beyond, they could see the two huge black tractors almost on top of them. "Tractors!" shouted Mr. Fox, "and mechanical shovels. Dig for your lives! Dig, dig, dig!" Okay, so that is the end of chapter 5. Okay then, so your challenge for today, as you can see on the screen, I have got 6 different pictures, and those 6 different pictures resemble things that have happened just in that chapter. So as you can see here, you have got someone